In the context of governance and organizational frameworks, various terms like laws, regulations, policies, best practices, ethics, standards, and contracts are frequently used in the geospatial community, often interchangeably. However, they hold distinct meanings and purposes from a legal standpoint. Understanding the differences among these terms is essential for all technology professionals, but it is particularly important for geospatial professionals navigating the complex legal environment associated with geospatial technology. Laws are formal rules established by a governing authority, such as a legislature or parliament, and are often enforceable by a judiciary. They are created through a formal legislative process and must be adhered to by all individuals and organizations within the jurisdiction of the authority that enacted them. Because laws are so important, it can take a very long time for a law to be created or passed. Similarly, it is also a difficult and lengthy process to change a law once it is in effect. In the United States, laws impacting the geospatial sector are found at both the federal and state level. They include the Geospatial Data Act of 2018, various export control laws, laws pertaining to conducting land surveys, and the Virginia Consumer Data Protection Act. Regulations are specific rules or directives made and maintained by an administrative or regulatory agency pursuant to an authority granted to it by a law. These agencies are empowered to interpret and implement laws by creating detailed rules or regulations that must be followed. Because it is difficult to change a law once it is passed, laws are often very general, with the details left to the applicable government agency to address. In a sense, regulations provide the operational framework necessary to enforce laws. It generally takes less time for a regulation to come into force than legislation. However, generally the scope of a regulation is more limited. For example, the Federal Aviation Administration in the United States issues regulations governing the use of drones, which collect geospatial data to ensure safety, but it does not have the legal authority to address privacy rules, for example. Policies are formalized principles or policies adopted by an organization to achieve its long-term goals and ensure compliance with laws and regulations. Unlike laws and regulations, policies are not legally binding, but serve as guidelines for decision-making within an organization. Because they are not legally binding, it is often easier and quicker to develop a policy than a law or regulation. For instance, a government agency might have a policy on data sharing that outlines how geospatial information can be shared with other agencies or the public while ensuring data security and privacy. OMB Circular 16, which pertains to federal agencies that produce, maintain, or use geospatial data, either directly or indirectly in the fulfillment of their mission, is an example of a geospatial policy. Similarly, the Department of Defense has published policies that address the authority of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. Best practices are methods or techniques recognized by a group, sector, or profession that are believed to show superior results. They also can be used as benchmarks within a particular industry or field. They are often developed through experience, research, and collaboration, and are recommended as efficient and effective ways to achieve desired outcomes. In the geospatial field, best practices might include methodologies for data collection, processing, and visualization, or data governance. For example, the American Society for Photogrammetry and Remote Sensing has produced best practices on such matters as field surveying of ground controls and checkpoints. Generally, best practices are limited to a particular activity or group and have limited applicability to others outside that group. Ethics refers to moral principles that govern a person's or group's behavior and decisions. Ethical considerations in geospatial information management might involve ensuring data accuracy, respecting ownership rights, and avoiding misuse of information to infringe upon an individual's privacy. While laws and regulations provide a legal framework, ethics often guide behavior in situations where laws are silent or ambiguous, emphasizing the importance of doing what is right even beyond legal obligations. Standards are agreed upon criteria or benchmarks established by a recognized body after consensus has been reached within a particular community. Standards are intended to provide consistency, reliability, and compatibility across processes, products, or services. In geospatial technology, standards might be established for data formats, interoperability of systems, and quality control. Organizations like the Open Geospatial Consortium and the International Organization for Standardization develop and maintain standards for the geospatial community in order to facilitate greater adoption, global cooperation, and technological advancement. ASPRS also has published standards on positional accuracy for digital geospatial data. Contracts, such as license agreements and sales contracts, are legally binding agreements between two or more parties that outline the terms and conditions of a relationship, transaction, or service. They are enforceable by law and can provide a mechanism for resolving disputes. Because they are transactional in nature, they are easier to and quicker to draft and negotiate than a law or regulation. However, their applicability is limited to the parties to the contract. Each of these elements plays a crucial role in the governance and operational frameworks within which geospatial professionals and organizations operate. Laws and regulations provide the legal foundation, policies guide organizational behavior, best practices and standards can provide quality and consistency, ethics govern moral conduct, and contracts formalize agreements. Over time, they can evolve. For example, a requirement to comply with certain standards or follow best practices can be written into a contract. This occurred when government agencies require federal contractors to comply with cybersecurity practices published by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Similarly, policies can eventually become law, such as the Geospatial Data Act of 2018, which incorporates many aspects of OMB Circular A16. Understanding the distinctions and interplay among these terms is essential for professionals, especially in fields like geospatial information management, where legal, ethical, and technical considerations intersect.